It's lights out, everybody, and welcome back to the Low Downforce podcast, the For-Friend Formula One podcast. It is good to be back. I have missed y'all dearly. I'm going to brag on myself a little bit. I got married. Shout out the ring.
Yeah.
So, hey, real champion winner over here. Doesn't matter about the Predictors Championship. I got married. That's all that matters. But that's not
like
the case. Well, ain't that the truth? If you've seen my predictions this year, we obviously have predictions coming this episode because it's another preview episode, but we are missing J9. You just have the lads tonight. You have Matt, you have Josh, and you have myself, Ben. We do have J9's predictions, though, so we are all good to go, and we are gearing up for not just another Grand Prix weekend, but another sprint weekend at that, all the way down in the lone South American race, coming to you from Sao Paulo, Brazil, one of the few Grand Prix named after the city and not the country. It is the Formula One MSC Cruises Grande Premio de Sao Paulo 2025, and we are into the final 4 races of the season. It is crunch time. It is go time. Everything is to play for still for the Drivers' Championship with 3 drivers still alive. But I'm back. F1 is back. We just had a week off. How are we feeling, Matt? We ready to go racing again?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was an electric race out in Mexico City, and I'm really excited to see what happens in Sao Paulo.
Yeah, and how can you not be excited, especially since Charles Leclerc is now engaged? So Ben, he, like you, is about to acquire a ring despite not winning a championship.
Hey, he had to win. He had to win a prize somehow, but I don't know. Is there an engagement boost in Formula One? We talk about in other sports, like coach gets fired. Usually the team plays really well after coach gets fired. Do we get a boost like that? Is there he's happy, he's in love, and so he's just going to pedal to the metal all the way around? Just put it on pole, win the race?
Especially given that who was the famous quote that was it Fernando Alonso that was like, I knew he was going to break because he has a wife and kids at home?
Yeah.
I think it was Alonso.
It's a very like twisted quote. It wasn't said right when it's associated with. It was said a couple months later, all that stuff. But you are right. It is that
having a wife might be a downside in Formula One.
But I mentioned also a sprint weekend. Another thing to look for, other than Mr. Smiley Charles Leclerc, it's not going to come out yet. We don't know at the time of recording. But Williams has teased that they are bringing back another Gulf livery. There have been some Williams Gulf liveries. There have been some McLaren Gulf liveries over the last 5-10 years. They are freaking bangers every time. I don't know if it's just that the orange and powder blue of Gulf, the sponsor, does well, but they are sick-looking cars. I'm sure this one is going to be great. It'll be a little weird seeing a Williams rocking up in the orange alongside McLaren, but always good to see, always good to get excited for. And as I mentioned, there's certainly a lot to watch. It is the 5th of 6 sprint race weekends this year, the last one coming up in a couple races time in Qatar, but Interlagos, Sao Paulo, Brazil, crazy weather, crazy chaos. We've had some incredible championship-defining moments at this track. We expect this weekend to be a banger, as it always is. And to break it all down, I hinted at Interlagos. Is that the official name? Is it not? Matt's here with Matt's Track Facts to get us going. What do you have for us this time?
Hey, y'all. We're going to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, more commonly referred to as Interlagos, which is a permanent track in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's one of the just incredibly iconic circuits on the calendar, tight, technical, and pretty much unpredictable, at least from a lot of the races we've seen. Formula One first landed here in 1973 when Emerson Fittipaldi was on his rise. He actually won the inaugural race, and the track's official name comes from the 1975 winner Carlos Pace, who's also Brazilian. This year, we actually get a home driver. Gabi Bortoleto is from Osasco, which is in the greater Sao Paulo area, so it's not like he's just from the same country. He's actually a hometown guy, so that'll be really cool for the race. The track measures 4.309 kilometers, running counterclockwise for 71 laps. giving us a total race distance of about 306 kilometers. We have 2 TRS zones defining much of the action here, one along the pit straight into the famous Senna S turn, and another down the Reta Oposta back straight into the Descida do Lago. The best overtaking opportunities are going to come here at that turn 1 and turn 4, but the lap is just going to reward rhythm and confidence throughout. Especially in the infield in Ferradura, Junção. That's turn 12. That exit on Junção is huge. It sets up the run up the hill to the start-finish straight. And turn 13, Subida dos Boxes, is the uphill left leading to the start-finish, is significantly banked. So this is like some of the other tracks we see on the calendar that some of the older tracks, you have that really significant banking, and it's uphill. So that's why cars are going to be able to floor it out of Junção and hug the inside while climbing up. Like you mentioned, Ben, Interlagos has always pretty storylines, wet, dry races, last lap title deciders, and late season shakeups. The weather can swing from blazing sunshine to torrential downpour in minutes, and the high altitude and constant camber changes can push cars and drivers to the limit. Strategically, tire degradation tends to be moderate to high, and safety car probability here is among the highest on the calendar, north of 80% recent years. Expect drivers to dance with the curves, wrestle with balance changes, and fight through DRS trains in a race that's often going to be chaotic in the best of ways. Simply put, Interlagos is just absolutely nuts. The most wins at Interlagos belongs to Michael Schumacher with 4, and last but not least, the lap record is a 1 minute 10 second .540 set by Valtteri Bottas in 2018.
You mentioned tire degradation. They being Pirelli, have announced they're going one step harder this year. So we've got the C2s, the C3s, and the C4s. They said their reasoning is that they saw so much wear last year that they're hoping by going a little bit harder means that some teams, some drivers might use the soft tire in the race as opposed to only it being used during qualifying last year. And then one other little tricky thing, Interlagos got resurfaced last year, and a lot of the drivers complained about it being bumpy, and so they actually resurfaced parts of the track again. So not the entire track, but there is a little bit of uncertainty there on how smooth the track's going to be with only one practice session this weekend because it's a sprint race. But even if you prepare in practice, even if it seems perfectly sunny and dry, we know weather can change quickly. Josh, you've got the race rewind from last year, and it was anything but ordinary.
Yeah, the weather was absolutely the major talking point of last year because there was a wet – it rained before the race, and Lance Stroll spun on the formation lap. They had to do an aborted start because he messed up everybody, and he did not get to start the race. Crazy changing conditions throughout the entire race. Colapinto had a big crash, brought a red flag. Sainz spun and crashed. Verstappen started in 17th after taking a grid penalty for changing his engine. He won the race from 17th. That's like how crazy the race was. There was just so much going on. And maybe even crazier than Verstappen winning a race, because he does that all the time, there was a double podium for Alpine, which that doesn't happen ever. And Ocon got second, Gasly third. There were 2 DNFs, Sainz and Colapinto, like I just said. Stroll and Albon, neither of them started the race. And then Hulkenberg got disqualified because some marshals helped. They touched his car, which they're not allowed to do during the race, trying to get him out of he was stuck. He had to get unstuck. So absolutely crazy race with all the rain, changing positions.
I'm glad you
Alpine
mentioned
things.
Alex Albon, because that's actually one of the most interesting parts of it. Alex Albon, if I remember correctly, qualified in the front 2 rows. I think it was P3 or something. After setting that lap in the rain, he crashes. The reason he doesn't start the race is because, and I've never seen this, I've never even heard about this in Formula One. The rain was so bad on Saturday that they postponed qualifying to Sunday morning before the Grand Prix. So normally when Sunday is just about the Grand Prix, the rest of the weekend set up beforehand, they actually push qualifying into Sunday morning. Alex Albon, great lap, and then on the next lap crashes, not enough time to repair the car. I think Franco Colapinto on the other side of the Williams garage crashed 3 times in 3 different sessions that weekend.
Behrman spun. Everyone was
carnage.
spinning. There was no way to like stay on the track. It was just so wet.
And speaking of carnage, I know I haven't been around for a couple weeks, but I have to imagine that I am still bottom of the Predictors Championship. Although I think, if my memory serves correctly, I've done a little bit better the last couple weeks.
Yeah, so the U.S. Grand Prix in Austin, you had 7 points. You did great. You still didn't have the most points that race because I had 8, but that's a side point.
Impressive.
Last race, you had 1 point, which was good because the only other points of all 4 of us were Matt getting his hot take. So you are still in last place, but you're only 2 points behind J9 now, which is good.
Hey, we're going for that Alpine double podium in the rain strategy where I have one good weekend performance and it sneaks me off the bottom of the table.
And then, Matt, you are only 3 points behind me. So, I mean, with 4 races to go, I feel like, especially with 2 sprint races left, it is still way up in the air for anybody.
Just as hot as the Drivers' Championship, which is currently separated by only 1 point. And that doesn't even count Max Verstappen, who is hot on the heels of both McLaren drivers. But you mentioned, Josh, it is a sprint weekend. There's one more after this one, but that means there's a couple extra predictions to make. And as we always do, we go chronologically. And since it's a sprint weekend, we don't go that far. Friday afternoon, actually, when we have the sprint shootout qualifying. Matt, I'm jumping to you first. Sprint pole in Sao Paulo. Who do you have?
I have Max. I think that he's coming into this confident. He's been looking better in the car. And to be honest, I mean, just with how crazy the full Grand Prix can be, I think he really just puts it all out there for the sprint race and therefore the qualifying.
I have gone for Lando. I feel like now that he has the championship lead, I feel like he does well when he can put together multiple results in a row. And I don't think he's going to necessarily, well, we'll get to that later about how I think he's going to fare. But, I think he feeds on his past performances. And after winning in Mexico, I think he's going to get pole in the sprint.
Well, we are perfectly split down the middle because J9 has gone Max Verstappen like Matt. I have gone Lando Norris like Josh. I do think Lando is getting hot at the right time. Obviously, you got to see it out, but I think he's got good momentum. Obviously, the race went sideways last year, but Lando did grab a pole position in Brazil for the Grand Prix before botching the start, rainy conditions, all of that stuff. So we know he's good around this track. We know he's finding his rhythm at the right time. I'm going to spoil it. Sprint race the next day. I think it's a little bit of status quo. J9 as well. So I've got Lando Norris on sprint pole, converting that to the sprint win. J9 has taken Max Verstappen pole and converting that to the sprint win.
I have not gone status quo, and I have Oscar Piastri winning the sprint.
Wow.
I think Lando's. It'll tie into my hot take later, but I think the McLaren battle is going to be quite juicy.
I would say that's going to be big drama if there's a swap of the McLarens at the top. Matt, who did you go with for winning the sprint?
I went status quo. I think Max will convert it.
It's hard to tell with these sprints because there's no pit stops. You can risk a little more because there's a little bit less at stake, but there's not enough time to set up all the strategy you want. But we still have a Grand Prix. We still have Grand Prix qualifying where the stakes are the highest. Going to our pole position, Josh, you see Max Verstappen on pole again?
I do. I mean, he's so good. I think the McLarens are going to be in their own heads after a crazy sprint, and Max just is going to do what Max does.
I've also gone Max Verstappen. I think we've seen, and this is, I haven't heard it talked about too much. Maybe this is just my opinion. Red Bull seems to adjust really well after sprint races, and I don't know if it's because there's a wider gap between Max and his teammate versus the McLarens neck and neck, if they kind of just run the second car on an alternate strategy during the sprint to collect data for the Grand Prix. But Red Bull seems to be a lot more focused after the sprint races. They know exactly what they want to do with their tires for the remaining sessions. They know exactly what they want to do in qualifying trim. And so I think that'll actually give Red Bull the edge come the back half of the weekend. I've got Max Verstappen on pole. J9 flipped with me, though. She went Lando Norris. After I was shouting out Lando Norris, her Max Verstappen in the sprint part, she has flipped up to Lando Norris taking pole in the Grand Prix qualifying.
Yeah, and I don't know. I definitely did not look at J9's notes when preparing my own, but I did the same flip. And I think that, for the same reasons you mentioned, Ben, that there's a good chance that Max could walk away with pole here. I think that the same applies for Lando. Not in the sense that they can just gather data off of a second car, but I think that they settle their nerves and understand the tire strategy a little bit better going into the full race. And also, I think that there's just a lot more opportunity to overtake. There's more laps. Sorry, I'm getting into what will happen in the race, but I think that they'll understand a whole lot better how they want the car to run. And McLaren does really well in those corners.
Is it weird to say, I know we got a couple more predictions to go, but just jumping in here, this is how I'm reading it right now. Obviously, when we get to Abu Dhabi, end of the year, all three, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, they all want to walk away with the title. I feel like Lando would rather lose the championship to Max than Oscar. Like, I think
Certainly.
While he still has a little bit of a gap, he knows how that went last year. Like,
I think they'd both rather lose the championship to Max than their
teammate, just because of inter-team dynamics going forward and stuff. But yeah, so I don't think that necessarily spoils what I'm going to say in the race predictions. But it's interesting that I think that Lando, at least while he still has somewhat of a lead on Max, he's only got the 1 point lead on Oscar, is that Lando might be a little more focused on just finishing ahead of Oscar this weekend, as much as finishing on top of everybody kind of thing. But enough wiffle waffle, enough rambling. We get right into the Sunday action. Although, who knows, maybe qualifying will also be Sunday action. We don't know from what we saw last year. But assuming it's just the Grand Prix, starting with our podium, bottom to top, that means third place. Josh, I'm jumping to you first. Who's bronze down in Brazil?
Oscar Piastri.
Straight up, just no notes. Absolutely.
No notes.
Slam it on
happening.
the table. Matt, what about you?
I went the same. I can't see him falling any lower than that.
I'm going Mr. Does Nothing P3 George Russell.
Oh.
I think he's had good showings out here. I think Mercedes, we've talked about the drivers a lot. We know McLaren wrapped up the constructors a while ago, but Mercedes just behind Ferrari, just ahead of Red Bull. They're all within 10 points in the Constructors' Championship fighting for P2. I think that's a little extra motivation for George Russell to pull out one of his stellar performances this year. J9, though, went with what you guys were thinking. She went Oscar Piastri as well. So I guess I'm the cheese. I'm standing alone on this one. But P2, maybe it's a little bit of a different story. J9 has gone Max Verstappen. So she had Max Verstappen going pole to win in the sprint. She doesn't have Max Verstappen on pole in the Grand Prix. She doesn't have him winning the race. Maybe there's a little bit of alignment there. I've gone with Lando Norris in P2, and maybe it's spoiling a little bit, but this is kind of what I was hinting at with, I think Lando isn't going to fight too hard, risk too much against Max in the race if he's going to be gaining on Oscar this weekend.
So you don't have Oscar in the top three? That's what I'm hearing.
I do not. I think F1's a momentum sport, and Oscar, I know this track will suit him better than the last two, but Oscar is struggling in the time of the season when the pressure is getting highest. He's not leading the championship for the first time since April, I believe. So he certainly feels on the back foot, or at least I imagine he does.
And I have the exact same top two as you. I have Norris second, Verstappen first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was really debating this because, I mean, like we've just been talking about, these three front runners for the Drivers' Championship. It's such a toss-up. I think, if there's any chance of rain, which and it doesn't look like there's a chance on Sunday at the moment. But just I think Max is very liable to walk away from this with a win. So I'm not going to have him win it. Or sorry, he'll win the sprint in my opinion, and he'll also pull it out in the race with Lando at P2. But that is something that I've kind of been weighing on. Just it's really tough. I almost want to flip it right now, but
It's
I'll stick
certainly
with it.
We're all
exciting.
in alignment there.
J9 did go with the flip. I mentioned she had Max in P2. She does have Lando in P1, so she does have both pole sitters this weekend finishing out their respective races on top. But that's a lot of the usual suspects. We're at the business end of the season. That's what we expect. But we also have our P10 prediction. A little more lawless, a little more chaos. We just got to see, did we all group think? Do we all go completely differently like we usually do? Matt, I'm going to go to you first. Who do you have picking up the final point in the Grand Prix?
Because I didn't get it in Mexico and I really wanted it, I'll just go Albon again. Also, I think that he got close in Mexico. He looked really good here last year. I don't think the Williams is nearly as good of a car as he wants it to be right now. But just a gut feeling.
I wanted to go Bortoleto at his home race, scoring points, sneak it in, but I actually think he's going to do better than 10th. But that's a whole side thing.
Yeah.
I'm going Ollie Behrman for P10. Good.
Okay.
He's been good.
Just had a great performance in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Coming off, I guess, P4 in Mexico with his best career finish. So I think he'll get back-to-back points here.
I have gone with his teammate, Esteban Ocon, who I think has been driving well. He's had some qualifying woes, but he's been driving well for a good chunk of this back half of the season, and I want to see it merit him some points, exactly 1 point to be exact, though. So hopefully that's the case. J9 has gone with Kimi Antonelli, so the Mercedes faithful, is not a Mercedes believer this weekend, at least on Kimi's side of the garage, having him salvaging only 1 point. But that's 1 point for them. That's 1 point for us. What's 3 points for us, though, 3 times the fun, 3 times the chaos, is our spicy hot takes. Of course, it's not the same when J9 isn't here, but we keep the show moving as we always do. So I'm going to go to hers first in honor. Her hot take is that there will be 3 DNFs in Brazil, which with weather, very possible. But to cap it all off, she's not expecting to see a Ferrari in the top 5 in the Grand Prix this year. So, Josh,
That's crazy,
I hope for your sake that ain't true, but
we'll probably be like 4th or 5th. Like I don't expect the podium, but I think top 5 will.
Although at
will
the
be
same
good.
time, Charles back-to-back podiums. He's finding his groove. Lewis Hamilton, honorary citizen of Brazil. We haven't mentioned that yet. You talked about Gabriel Bortoleto home race. Honorarily, Lewis Hamilton home race as well. He loves it here. Senna, obviously being his idol. So maybe he pulls one out the bag as well.
Fair enough.
Possible.
I think that this also factors into how I saw the race playing out, considering my prediction for pole. I think a red flag is going to restart the race with under 10 laps to go. And, that just absolutely nullifies some of the leads that I think if Lando gets out in front there and my hot take doesn't hit, there's a pretty good chance that he sticks out the win, just the way he's been driving recently. But if there's a red flag and the race all restarts, I mean, Max just...
You never want Max
dangerous.
Verstappen behind you on a restart. I think the only thing you want less than that is Max Verstappen in front of you on a restart, because then you got no chance either way. I unfortunately am dumping on Ferrari a little bit as well too. Not as directly. It's not their fault, but you heard my podium predictions. Max Verstappen with the win. George Russell pulling out a podium. I have Ferrari dropping from P2 to P4 in the Constructors' Championship after this weekend. Obviously, a couple more points at stake with the sprint race, but I think that means Mercedes has to only outscore Ferrari by 3 or 4 points this weekend. Red Bull has to outscore Ferrari by 10 points this weekend. I think Red Bull holds that tiebreaker because of Max's Grand Prix wins, of which Ferrari doesn't have any this year. But a lot to play for. I know some people say, oh, P2 and the constructors, who cares? There's a lot of money at stake. Shout out to all the employees at these companies. Their bonuses are usually tied to their constructors' standings finish. So hopefully for the Ferrari employees, this isn't true. There's certainly more races to go after this, but I have Ferrari performing the worst of those three teams, dropping from P2 to P4 in the Constructors' Championship after this weekend.
That's rude, but it's very possible. You have gone with constructor standings. I've gone driver standings. I think over the course of the weekend, the Drivers' Championship lead will swap 2 times. I think Piastri will pass Lando in the sprint. I think Lando's going to take it right back in the race.
Okay.
Certainly the drama everybody will hope for.
Yeah.
But you're leaving it open-ended, right? Like if theoretically Max were to...
Max is...
Is he within range of even
Max
getting
is 36
first?
points behind Lando, 35
Yeah.
points behind Oscar, which I think if McLaren double DNF both drivers I think it's still only 33 points.
Well, then there wouldn't be a lead change after the sprint.
Yeah,
No, but I mean, like in terms of Max catching up. Because of the sprint weekend, there's an extra 8 points for first in that race. So instead
25.
of 25-33, I do think, though, just with my predictions, just with different drivers' strengths and weaknesses, I am really starting to believe. I don't know if it's going to be likely, if
the Lando
or Oscar is up 10 or 15 points, they have more they can control coming into the final race. I do think Max is going to get within the quote-unquote striking distance, the 25 points by Abu Dhabi, which means that 3 drivers will at least have the chance to win the Drivers' Championship on the final race of the season. Which,
that would be crazy.
Oh boy, would that be drama. Inter-team drama, intra-team drama, all of it. It will be absolutely crazy. But we're getting ahead ourselves. There's going to be plenty of craziness just in this weekend in Sao Paulo alone. We've said it so many times. It is a sprint weekend, so the timings for you, of course, Eastern Standard no longer, or I guess Eastern Daylight or whatever it is. The sun sets earlier now. That's what you need to know. If you set your clocks correctly on the East Coast of the United States, that sprint shootout is starting off roaring Friday afternoon at 1:30 p.m., so you don't have to wait too long. The sprint race the following morning, Saturday morning at 9 a.m., qualifying for the Grand Prix that afternoon at 1 p.m. on Saturday, and of course on ESPN. You absolutely want to tune into it on Sunday, noon. Get it in before the NFL kicks off that weekend, minus the Berlin, Germany game, because that's what we're doing now. But it is a noon Sunday race on the East Coast. As we mentioned, there's 1 point separating the Drivers' Championship lead right now. There is so much at stake. There's momentum. There's risk of rain, risk of safety car. You don't want to miss it. This is the most exciting part of the season. We are so ready for it. Thank you for listening this far. Thank you for following us all season long. We will be back after this weekend to break down all that happened in South America this weekend. Until then, everybody, stay speedy. Goodbye.